Okay, so today I am sitting down with Dr. Marissa Hake, and we are going to be kind of talking about her career as a veterinarian and some of her experiences through the industry. Dr. Hake, could maybe you just kind of talk a little bit about your background to kind of start?
Sure. Yeah. So I currently live in Ohio, but I'm looking out my window right now and I can see Indiana. So that's kind
Okay.
of where I'm at, pretty close to Michigan as well. So I grew up in Michigan on the west side of the state, and was always interested in agriculture. I knew from a really young age that I wanted to be a veterinarian. I was kind of one of those kids. But so I went to Michigan State. I did my undergrad in animal science, and that's definitely when I kind of transitioned more probably from the equine side to the food animal side of my interest. And then after that, I went to Michigan State for my DVM, and at the same time, I did a master's in public health. And so through that, I kind of knew I wanted to be in food animal, and being from Michigan, focused more on dairy, but I was open to, swine or poultry or anything like that. But I really enjoyed the young stock side of dairy. And so when I graduated, I got a job as a staff veterinarian for a calf company. And so that's kind of where I got started and really focused on, kind of the young stock, neonatal calf care, and things like that. So that's how I kind of ended up where I'm at now. And always had a focus on being able to help farmers, but also integrate in kind of the communication with the consumer as well.
So I guess kind of going off of what you just said about the consumer part, is that kind of what kind of led you to create the social media kind of platform that you have now? Kind of just your work, or what sparked all
Yeah.
that?
I fell into it. So we had some bloggers come and tour our facilities. And then when they went out and they kind of talked to their followers, there was lots of questions. And so I didn't really want to answer those from my personal account. So I just made it a vet account to answer those questions. And that's how it got started.
Yeah, and that's for anybody who's kind of watching or listening, that's how I found her, and have been following along, and she puts excellent content out there. Everything is very educational, and I think gives a very accurate picture of what real life looks like. But what kind of, and so I know you said you started working for a company. Are you still working with that company, or do you have more of kind of a private practice now? I don't know if that's the correct term for veterinary.
Yeah. No, so I transitioned from the calf side, and now I'm working on the dairy side.
Okay.
So I work for Fairlife, and I'm the director of animal welfare and sustainable farming. So I kind of transitioned to the back side of things, and working on more on the welfare side.
Okay. And what is a daily kind of, I know that's probably a hard question because every day is
Yeah.
different, but what does like a typical day look like?
Well, I wish I knew at this point. So I started in late January, and then I was about to get out to farms, and COVID hit, and so kind of being non-essential, I needed one last person on the farm, right? So we kind of just went down to the bare minimum. So I'm just getting back out. But what kind of looks like is taking this interface between a brand and a company and the dairy farms, right? And that whole entire supply chain, there can be kind of a loss in communication. And we want to make sure that we don't have that. So I work every day with our supplying dairy farms, and we work on, say, welfare standards or worker care standards or things like that we really want to push as an industry. And then on the brand side, we have an animal welfare council that kind of has the leaders in each one of those spaces, and they give us input as a company as we make these standards or work with our farmers, as well as input from the farmers. We want both sides of academic and farmers to make these standards. And we kind of hope that we can really think outside the box on some of these consumer issues, and things that they're concerned about, and moving forward in the next 5 to 10 years, try to put together a program that's kind of leading in those spaces. So that's, I guess, in a nutshell, kind of what I do every day. But it's a little bit higher up than, not higher up, but just a different thinking space, and say going out and treating a
Right.
DA, or
Right.
so it's just a little bit different.
Right. And so I guess too, based off of that, what kind of, as you've been working through some of these problems, what's kind of one of the bigger consumer issues that you guys have come across, or maybe one that you're kind of trying to work to combat right now?
Yeah, I think there's some big areas, but anything around calves, which is unique because I come from the calf side. So anything around cow calf separation, and how we raise our calves and things like that is always a big sticking point for consumers, and it's something that we need to address and look at and see if we can do better.
Right. So I guess too, going off of that, what's kind of maybe one of the hardest parts about your job, or most challenging, I guess?
I spend a lot more time on a computer, and
That's what I
I
was gonna
miss
ask. It sounds like that.
yeah, I miss being outside every single day. I mean, it was nice. I say like late January, February, I was like, I can do this. This isn't too bad. But now that it's really nice out, I'm like, oh, I don't want to answer another email.
Yeah.
That's probably the worst part is it's just not hands on as much.
Yeah. And I could definitely see that. But then also, you guys, your family at least, also has a farming background, correct?
My husband?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I married a Ohio. We farm here. We do cash crop, hay, wheat, and then we have a now wean to finish pig farm, and we do some custom raising for heifers and some dairy beef and regular beef. So I just say we're diversified. Make it easy.
Yeah, and then you guys also have British Whites, right? That's your own little kind of
Yes.
baby project herd, I guess.
That is my 100% a hobby herd, and I will admit it every single day. Yeah, so it was funny. A couple years ago, about 3 years ago now, I can't remember. I went into one of our calf facilities, and we had a crossbred British White that was like the most perfect calf I'd ever seen. And I was like, what is this? Like, I gotta have them. And ever since then, I knew I wanted to have beef cattle, but I was like, this is my breed. Like, this is what I'm
Mhm.
going for. So yeah, it's exciting to finally have it happen and own. It's weird when you work every day with cattle, but they're not yours. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and so now to have like these are my cows and these are
Right,
my calves, it feels
right.
good.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of funny because we had the same type of thing with Highlands. We raised beef cattle and Angus and stuff, and then my mom and I were obsessed with Highland cattle, and then we decided to venture into that. But
Yeah,
um, but yeah, they're so cute, and the pictures that you put on there, I'm actually the other day I showed my mom. I was like, you have to look at these calves; they're so cute. But
I've had so many people be like, so where can I get these? Like, this is what we're gonna do too. And I was like, yeah, we're gonna make them like British Whites are gonna come back. I promise.
yes, they're definitely a cool breed for sure. But also kind of definitely not vet related, but I talked to Becca the other day right before you guys had your Flip Cup challenge,
Oh,
and
awesome. Okay.
we were talking some smack for sure, and then you won. So who are you facing next?
So there was another kind of controversial one, but I think I'm playing Meredith Bernard from This Farm Wife. So her and I will go pending her terrible rural internet. We both have terrible rural internet. So I'll go against her, which will be really fun. And then I think if I win that one, I'm pretty sure it'll be Dairy Girl Fitness by Emily. So I don't know for sure though.
Okay,
We'll
awesome.
see.
Yeah, and if for those of you again who are listening or watching whatever whenever this gets posted, that is a super cool little fun project that's going on with some of the dairy producers and people on social media. So check it out, donate. It's all going towards a good cause for sure.
Yeah, we've already made for I think $2,000 for Feeding America,
Oh wow,
which is pretty cool.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Good. That's definitely supporting the industry and then also giving back. So doesn't get much better than that. Um, so changing
Right.
gears a little bit, but as a woman in the industry, how have you integrated into the industry, and has there been some challenges, or what have you kind of faced?
That's such a good question. I talked to other women about this, especially just being a mother and a wife and trying to work in an industry that's mostly male dominated, which is fine. It's changing for sure. But it just feels like it's all about balance a lot of times. So it's frustrating because it's like, well, if you wear too much makeup, then you're too pretty to work in ag. But if you don't, then like, why, it's just like, you never feel like you can win,
Right. Right.
and so it's really just being like true to you, and being patient. You will prove yourself. You will, in good time, and just continuing to show up. We're definitely changing the narrative around women in agriculture. We can drive a truck and a trailer, and we can drive a tractor, and
Right.
we can pull calves just as good as you can, because we've had to figure out different ways that it's not always just muscle.
Right.
And so I think it's changing. It's really, really positive. And I think especially on social media, we see a lot of that, where we're actually seeing these women in rural areas that would never have the exposure, right? But now that we have the beauty of social media is that we can see all the cool things they're doing. And so, yeah, so I think it's really positive. There's definitely days that you just want to like hit your head against the wall,
Mhm.
but it's great. And there's a great support system out there now for women that are trying to get into ag.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think social media has changed the game a little bit for sure. But also with that, what's something I think that um, what if you could give advice maybe to a woman who's trying to kind of come into the industry or tell their story on social media, what would you kind of tell them?
Yeah, I think it has to be like, be true to you. And when I first started on social media, I was very like, okay, here's my veterinary fact, or here's this, like, and it was very impersonal, because I wanted to kind of keep that air of, I'm a professional, here's my professional,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of the day, the reason that people connect with other people is because they feel like, they have a connection, or they relate, or, and so it wasn't really until I started showing the other side of my life, like, hey, I'm a mom and I struggle with this, and I'm gonna kill my husband today because we moved cats, and and I think so. Um, just having it so other people feel like they can relate to you, and the same struggles and all of that is what you need to do, right? And not put up a facade that you have it all together. And I think that that's how we build community too, is like, hey, I'm struggling with this, can anybody help me? And the next time that someone's struggling, you can help them. And that's kind of how this industry should be, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. 100% agree with that. Could not have said it better. And and that's one thing too. I want to commend you on. I think you do an excellent job of that on social media by keeping it educational, but also you're showing the reality. And this is me. And hey, I'm having a bad day, and I'm going to say that because everybody has bad days, kind of thing. Um, but last kind of maybe question statement of if you could just share one thing about agriculture or one thing about your career with anybody who maybe doesn't have an agriculture background, what would it be?
um and I'm really, really proud of agriculture. And, I come from the vet side, and we kind of see, obviously, the back door, right? So we come in the back door, we see everything that's happening on farms. And as hard as farmers work, I think that's what most people miss. With a 9 to 5 job, and I'm not saying that those jobs aren't valuable, but a lot of people don't bring their work home, right? They're not totally life invested into a career as farmers are, right? And I think I talked about it one time. I was like, my son's nursery is completely covered in cows, right? Like, we love cows. And I know, like, I can see some decor, like cow tags, like you do, right? So
Yeah.
it's that we have this, it's not only a job to us, it is a lifestyle, and and a passion. And I just wish people would understand the amount of work and sacrifice that farmers put into this, and the amount of ridicule, I guess, and harsh criticism that they face every day in light of doing something that they love, and to keep doing it is pretty amazing. And so, one, if you're not in agriculture, try to learn, try to support a farmer. But if you're in farming, keep your head up, because there
Mhm.
are some tough days. So.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yep, couldn't agree. Couldn't agree more with that. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you sitting down to talk with me, and I hope that those who are watching get something out of this. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.